Alright, as may be clear by my attire, I completely cheated to get to this round, at least completely cheated from a hardcore U perspective. But now we are returning to the standard rules, standard gameplay. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm on a different server, and there are lots of things different about the AI here. It's interesting. I had not realised that different versions, yeah, were potentially this different. Because, yeah, these servers I've been playing on have not been hosted by me, because I'm in uni. They've all been hosted by friends. I mean, fortunately, like, I have a loop for this, but it is so much longer than my normal King of Hell loop, the one I've practiced. This is like this loop I have to go, like, with other enemies. So how on earth do I have this much imagination? I think I've unequipped all my items. Are there really this many imagination? There cannot be this many ways of getting imagination in the game. I'm sorry. No. That can't be right. I mean, it's, yeah, entirely plausible that at some point I did something which somewhat broke my character stats, because this is a character pulled over from DLU Live, back when DLU Live, well, okay, DLU Beta, no, Alpha, sorry. Spent so much time talking about DLU Beta when we thought that was going to happen that that's now what comes to mind. Yeah, so the server I'm normally playing on wasn't up, so I'm on another friend's server, and yeah, there are significant noticeable differences here when I've been playing this today. Like, yeah, the AI is... Like, the AI is respecting walls on this server, which is strange. It doesn't normally. So the AI in terms of pathfinding seems to be better, but there seems to not have been a fix at some point applied for King of Hell. Or for apes and their attack patterns, which, I mean, I can work with. I'm glad I didn't die to the first attack here, because that would have been annoying. But yeah, like, this is doable, but it is slow and annoying. Because I don't have the same... I really don't have the same guarantees when fighting this guy. I will actually survive a single hit, I believe, if I have to. But, just because I have that much health, because this is a pre-existing character. But obviously, I don't really want to rely on that, because, well, it's not exactly... I mean, this much health is possible to obtain fairly easily in a hardcore LU save, but when I started doing the hardcore LU save, like, I set myself a certain set of challenges, and those challenges were that my attempt should be possible, like, basically right when you land in Nimbus Station. And I shouldn't assume anything else for them, which made this challenge a lot harder than it had to be, because obviously, like, you can see I've got the big one in my inventory right now. That's allowable. That's allowable within the rules. Yes, also spent a little bit of time testing earlier spiderlings and whether or not... that's not very descriptive. So someone suggested the other day, well, someone mentioned, or I was having a discussion with someone the other day about Baton Nimbus Station damageless, which is something I've thought about a little bit in the past. And, like, I was always like, no, okay, I'm definitely not even going to contemplate that, just because mechs. They're not exactly RNG, but they are about as close to RNG as you can really get. So yeah, I don't want to deal with mechs shooting at me basically. And that means that yeah, I won't be doing battering station damage to this, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in whether or not it would be possible. And so yeah, it was an interesting question for me to be asked. Because if you got rid of the strolling mechs, like in theory, that they are entirely possible to avoid. In theory, strolling mechs shouldn't really pose much of a problem. So the question is, okay, what are the other issues? And as I already alluded to earlier, spiderlings. My current method for taking down spiderlings literally relies on me tanking damage from them. For very obvious reasons, that's not a great idea. Yeah, I don't want to be relying on... Well, you obviously can't rely on tanking damage in a damageless run. So the question is it possible to manipulate strong... And so the other thing with the spiderlings is you need to guarantee they can't attack you. And with normal spiderlings, this isn't too difficult. I'd need to optimize my timings and actually do a little bit of research, but I already fairly regularly fight stronglings completely damageless. That's actually really plausible, and yeah, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine I could be able to pull that off. The issue is that the stromlings we fight here, they have one slight difference from most stromlings, which is the fact that they're not stunned by our attacks. And them not being stunned by our attacks means, well, exactly what you'd think it would mean. Once I get in range, they will begin attacking, and there will be literally nothing I can do about it. So the question is, how can I need to get in range to attack, because their range is longer than mine. So how can I get in range and still remain safe? Is the question. So there are 3 attacks a spiderling can use. It can use its long range attack, it can use its web attack, and it can use its lunge attack. Now, if it uses the long range attack, I'm not 100% certain if that can even be triggered if you're close enough up. But that was actually a little bit close there. I wasn't paying enough attention. But yeah, the long range attack, honestly, I feel like it can be annoying, but in theory, that one should always be dodgeable. There's no real reason you should get hit by that. The issue is then with the 2 remaining attacks, because you need to get close and you need to remain close to deal damage. So there are a couple of ways you could look at dealing damage. One of them is very early, is my strategy from very, very early on when I started doing Baton Infestation, which the same strategy I use for literally everything, which is just run up and jump attack. And that is possibly the safest strategy we have available, normally. However, spiderlings are annoying, because their lunge attack, that doesn't take very long once you get in range for them to use. So, you need to somehow prevent the spiderlings using their lunge attack. How can we do this? Well, the only way we've lost most of the ways we can manipulate the enemies. Because we don't have, or the easiest ways, we don't have stunning, so I can't use any of my standard tricks. Don't like the way these... Okay, that's better. Right, let's get hit here. Nope. Yeah, so basically the only way of taking out a spiderling is going to more or less be by manipulating its AI. There is, I think, in theory, I'm not convinced. They are really fast on lunge attacks. At least without any AI manipulation, I don't think you can get close enough to do a lunge attack and get away before it will have executed one. Their web attack is fairly avoidable. So the real trick, or the real way of doing this, the only way I can see of taking them out, and I tested this briefly earlier, is basically you intentionally trigger their web attack. Their web attack is lovely because it leaves them stunned for a fair while after they use it. I don't know how many attacks you have time for. I haven't like closely tested that, but yeah, their web attack is it's your friend basically, because you can more or less choose which attack a spiderling will go for, judging by the distance you are from that spiderling at the point where they come off cooldown. So basically there are cooldowns for every individual attack, and then there are some global stuns applied to the spiderling. If the spiderling is stunned, and it will be after any attack it uses, there'll be a brief time where it doesn't matter whether or not it has anything off cooldown, it won't be able to attack. Then there are the cooldowns for each specific attack. And so that's what my normal method of taking out spiderlings relies upon. It relies upon the differing internal cooldowns for the lunge attack and the web attack. So for those who don't know what my normal strategy is, my normal strategy basically involves triggering a long range attack, running in fairly close but not too close, because that should trigger a web attack, jumping back, avoiding the web attack, then running in. The web attack, there will be a period where the spiderling is stunned. Stunned, and so can't use any attacks. In that time, you can potentially get 3 attacks in, but unless you smash it on one of those attacks, you will have damage done to you. So the question is, the question then becomes, okay, how do you beat I've completely lost my train of thought. Yes, so the standard thing is my standard thing is I run in. I basically trigger the web attack. The web attack gives me a little bit of spare time, and whilst the spiderling is stunned from the web attack, then I can run in. There'll be a brief reprieve whilst it can't use its lunge attack, but then I more or less have to tank damage from the lunge attack. You can't really deal damage and get away quickly enough. Now, if you want to generalize this to a damageless run, it is possible. That's what I was testing earlier, but instead basically you can't remain around for the 3 attacks. You can make use of that brief period where just after a web attack, it won't be able to make any attacks, but will probably try and lunge, or maybe, yeah. Well, I guess the issue is actually you've got to be a little bit more careful. So I did it like I did very much a proof of concept earlier. I got like 3 attacks off, and then was like, all right, that shows its boss. Actually, I don't even think I got 3. I think I punched it twice, completely damageless in a repeatable fashion, but then did not get anywhere near actually managing to repeat it myself. So, in theory, repeatable, not actually managed yet. Oh, no, that's bad. Honestly, this is getting me in some good habits, though. Fighting with this different AI. Because the one really large advantage is the fact that this guy's AI it doesn't I don't trust it, basically. It will deal a lot more damage and kill me a lot faster than the AI I'm used to fighting, which means I'm having to play this incredibly safely, which means that I'm not letting myself get anywhere near risking it for an extra attack combo when the ape's knocked out. The second I see the ape moving, I'm running away, which is that's the tweak that needs to be made to my method for the AI we're used to fighting. That's the tweak I needed to make anyway. So honestly, it's a little bit tedious because we've been going for 15 minutes. We'll be going for at least another 15. Oh no, this is the point where I should be running. Yeah, basically, what I need at the moment is just to train myself to be a lot more scared of the ape waking up. Because for whatever reason, in my normal runs, what I've been finding is that the ape will deal damage. Like sometimes I don't know if it's that somehow it's something funky's happening with the cooldowns. I don't know if it's lag. But however, by whatever mechanism, the ape is sometimes able to do damage right as it wakes up. Which obviously makes it a lot harder to deal with from my end. Well, by a lot harder to deal with, I mean, it just means that my standard method of dealing with the ape doesn't apply right as it wakes up. It seems to apply like a good proportion of the time, but not 100% of the time. Such that I've had 2 runs that have died to the same glitch, both on King of Hell. The first time I was like, okay, this is probably... it's probably lag, just a one-off, won't worry too much about it. Then it happened twice, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to actually plan for this. And so today, basically, my aim is to just go through a fair amount of Battle of Nimber Station and just explore the later rounds so that I'm not going in completely blind when I do face them later. Maybe get some strategies on this account where, obviously, I've got items I can go through. Like, so just to put this in perspective, normally at this point in the King of Hell fight, I would be an hour into a playthrough. I'm currently 28 minutes into a playthrough. It's the rounds from 9 to 14. They are not difficult, but they are time consuming. Like I think those take me maybe half an hour normally. It might be 15 minutes, but whatever it is, it's not a short amount of time. So by the point where I'm fighting King of Hell, my time is, like, by this stage in King of Hell, my time is over an hour. At the start of the King of Hell fight, I think it might be like 45 minutes, something like that. And so, yeah, the fact that AI is slightly different between these 2 servers is going to potentially cause me some problems, but regardless, this is going to be doing this practice on an account where I actually have a lot of stuff and can just breeze past the early rounds. It's going to be really good for actually getting practice in later rounds, well, for obvious reasons. Just because, yeah, it's so time-consuming getting up to the rounds normally. This gives me a much easier way of doing it. And I should also just say this could well be the first time I successfully beat King of Hell and Hardcore OU. It's looking like that's a fairly reasonable assumption. Apologies for anyone who just got ghost pinged. That was me. And I would normally, at this point, go and mute my Discord tab. However, if I do that, I will get smashed by King of Hell. Maybe I'll do that next time I knock him out. Okay, let's go. Quickly go up. Mute site. I'm not taking too many risks. Could still be attacking, but you know what? I think that was the right decision, because that way I don't... Oh, no, bad. Ah. Okay, so I would be dead by now. This run is officially over. That's a shame. Just because I distracted myself. Came back, wasn't thinking properly. Did something stupid. But it's fine. It's fine because this is all about practice. And I mean, ideally, I will be back will at some point be back on my normal server doing this anyway. And then I'll actually, like... Then the successful run will be potentially complete, because I won't be... I was going to say speedrunning the early game. I think anyone who actually is fast at battling the station would very much point out that I am not speedrunning the early game. But speedrunning compared to normal hardcore BoNS. Which is sufficient speedrunning for me. So yeah, the reason why I said it's over is because I've been hit once, and for the setup that I use for hardcore BoNS and for the rules I have imposed on myself, some of which are like extra on top of the standard hardcore U rules, Wow. Okay, I'm going to go past this round then, or that round next time. So I'm not going to gear up. I really should have geared up before starting, but that's fine. Let's go this. Sorry, I have something of an array of things I use normally. And like me gearing up isn't just putting one thing on, it's getting several items and starting some cooldowns that I want to be going. Yeah, this is honestly how I enjoy fighting an OU. It's the kind of challenge of, okay, I've got to, in order to do this as optimally as possible, I want to hop between, hop between lots of different weapons. That's not what I meant to do. Ideally, as close to optimally as possible. But yeah, the idea of having to actually think on my feet a little bit more than just spam alt. Hey there. So yeah, my loadout here is fairly standard of most fighting things I do in LU. This is kind of the loadout I'll normally work with. I should actually have equipped a weapon. So I didn't even consider the fact that, a weapon would be something I might use. Where's my... Reaper. That's... Wow, you can... I really just outed myself as assembly there, didn't I? Oof. Poor Doom Slicer. Was it worth using the mosaic just to camp just for that? No. Do I care? Also no. It's sufficiently inefficient I'm going to regret it? No. So, it's fine. Was dying to King of Hurl sufficiently inefficient that I regret it? Yes. But anyway, I'm fairly happy. Honestly, like, that strategy would have worked for King of Hurl. I don't really care that I lost there. I mean, okay, it's annoying because now I have to get, like, back, but it wasn't like I was really, like, excited with that run, because it's not a legitimate run. Anyway, some cool facts with Ninja for the day. Was hanging out with some people on here the other night, and we found quite a few interesting things actually out, which I think some people have known. So certain ones I think some people have actually known for quite a while, and I just hadn't. But yeah, one really interesting thing was was on the topic of when did the other final thing die? I don't know. One interesting things was on the topic of speed boosts. Was not aware that you could stack, and I know lots of people have been doing it, but was not aware you could stack the adventurer speed boost. Was not aware that could be stacked with things like Quixicles, because if you don't know, stuff like the Daredevil speed, I'd never tested it, but stuff like the Daredevil speed boost, I had tested running that like concurrently with Quixicles, and that doesn't work. And the reason is because the skills for both of them work by basically just reassigning the character's walk speed value, so it doesn't really do all that much, isn't really all that interesting. However, the Adventurer goes about it in a slightly different way. The Adventurer instead uses the buff system in LU, and that's how it get lost. I can just do this. Did I take a lot of damage just because I was being stubborn there? Yes. Did I die? No. Do I care? Also no. So there we are. Yeah, it's interesting. So because it works via the buff system, you actually can stack it, which is cool. It was something I hadn't realised. I don't think too many people had realised. We also found if you came at a slightly different angle on the monument run, you could make one jump slightly more efficient, and for monument plus items, there was one extra thing on top of that, which we noticed, which was the fact that it's actually possible. So for those who aren't familiar with the ridge on the monument, this is going to make no sense whatsoever. But basically, it's possible. You know, there's that like first step on the ledge, first step on the ridge, and then there's this. Then you go up. Like it's not really much of a step. You can just like walk up it if you want to. Then you make one jump to the next bit along, and then you make one further jump. And after that final jump, you can. After that final jump, then if you've got a speed boost, you can jump across. And like it's that third jump where you actually get height. Well, it turns out it's possible with a speed boost. It only actually has to be a single normal speed boost. Turns out it's actually possible to jump straight across just from that second step. The speed run with like with additional like Quixicles and the like, with additional items, that's never really been as heavily contested. Sorry, I've been talking, so I haven't been thinking as much about good gameplay. Yeah, it's never really been anywhere near as heavily contested as the main monument speedrun, so it's like not too much of a surprise something like this was lurking there. But it's still very cool that we now. But yeah, there's that strategy. It's precise. I only managed it once last night, and I was not recording at the time. But you also then have. But yeah, then there's this. So yeah, there's the double power up boost, which like hadn't. I don't know of anyone in the speedrunning community who was using that before. It's been possible all along. I think people just hadn't really tested it. I know I hadn't. Because I just assumed now it won't work. Is that a good strategy there? Sorry. That works. So that's alright. Ow. Go away. Don't like you. But yeah. Don't have too much more to say on that. Yeah, there was one which was quite interesting, because you could see why it wasn't, why we hadn't noticed it. Or at least why I'd never noticed it. Which was relating, so there are, before the ridge run, there are a couple of steps you have to climb up. And it turns out there's a more efficient route to climbing up those steps. Basically, the summary of this. Okay, was not planning on using that, but all right. Yeah, the summary of this strategy is kind of basically, if you do the steps are designed to be single jumped up. You can double jump obviously to get up one step, and you can double jump to get up more step. But you can't double jump to get up 2 steps at once. So you have to do 2 single jumps. Now normally that's done with 2 single jumps, but what we noticed last night is that actually it's possible to get up there with well, exactly what we were using before, 2 single jumps. However, the really interesting part is that normally those 2 single jumps are, you've got to wait until you land, because, well, you have to land, in most games you have to land before you can jump again. And the steps were large enough, or the steps were the right size for you to single jump up them. Which means that basically the peak of your jump was above the height of the steps, which is what you normally want for a step. But it turns out that's not optimal for running up steps quickly. In fact, what you don't want is to be at the peak of your jump right when you reach the top of the step, because if you're at the peak of your jump right as you reach the top of the step, well, there's going to be some short length of time for which you're in the air. Now, what basically we noticed is that, and so I'm saying we. I wasn't the person who noticed this. So in terms of who noticed what, apparently everyone but me knew you could stack the adventurer boost with Quixicles. But, and in fairness, now I think about it, I had heard that previously. But yes, the jump up the steps in front of the monument, the way that was discovered by user, well, an LUCH name a passive pogo stick, also known as Brian, or I believe, well, I'm probably going to get this wrong because I've never actually said his LU name, but Zeismer, I think. I haven't ever said it or like really paid attention because I was referring to him as either Brian or or passive pogo sticks, so I don't really know. But yes. But yeah, so he discovered this run, and so basically, or he discovered this was possible. Basically, what happens is actually really, really simple. It's that because you're running forwards, so effectively running forwards lets you end your jump a little bit earlier than you normally would. It lets you hit the ground a little bit sooner. So basically, if you're just jumping up and press forwards right when you reach the peak of your jump, well, that most of the time is going to be pretty much optimal. It's not always going to be optimal, but, well, as this demonstrates, but it's normally a pretty good bet if you want to go somewhere quickly. However, because, like, part of the issue with these jumps, part of the slowdown was related to the, basically, yeah, there was slowdown because we were spending too much time in the air, and we couldn't clear both things in one jump, and we had to wait before we were able to get our next jump. What this does is basically by running forward, you can effectively just, like, simply by moving forward, you hit the stair a little bit sooner. So basically, you may think like, okay, you're running forward, you hit the stair a little bit sooner, but if you hit the step a little bit sooner, then you haven't landed on it. And that would normally be more or less true. However, there's a subtlety. That is true if you have a cylindrical hitbox. However, in LU, hitboxes are not cylindrical. They are cylindrical with a cone on the bottom. And so what happens is basically, if you're running in the right direction at the right point in time, because you're running forwards, your forwards, like near the peak of the jump, your forwards velocity is able to basically overcome your upwards velocity due to the fact that you're jumping, and at that point you're basically just moving straight forwards. Am I? Oh, I'm there. I'm in range. Okay, yes, I'm just gonna play this out normally. I would have liked to have used that. Ugh, I'm not playing this well. You can see how unused I am to actually having to... Ouch, my poor creation. Even without the anchor, this is going to go a lot faster. If I don't die because I'm being an idiot, that is. Yes, that was exactly why I died last time, so we have reason to assume that I would. But yeah, it's a subtle thing, and like well, it's a small thing. It's not necessarily a subtle thing, but and I've kind of, you probably already have an idea of what I'm talking about, even like just as I've been blathering, somewhat describing it. But yeah, basically, the problem is exactly equivalent to what if the edge of the step you're trying to land on was slightly sloped. And I mean, there, like, it's obvious. If the edge of the step you're trying to land on is slightly sloped, well, that's interesting. I don't know why I threw it that way. I pressed the wrong button there. Yeah, if the edge of the step you're trying to land on is slightly sloped, then you can start running forwards a little before you're, like, going to land on top of the step, because you just need to hit the step on the slope and you can walk up the slope. And, like, that is, in essence, the complete idea behind this. But it's interesting. Like, it's not complicated, but it's, because of the geometry that plays hitbox, this is equivalent. Even though the physics is actually, like, it is a perfectly sharp slope. Yeah, the physics, the player's hitbox just means that it's effectively equivalent to if the hitbox weren't. But yeah, the interesting thing is why this wasn't noticed sooner, because, like, we've spent a good amount of time optimizing this, and the question is, yeah, why didn't we spot it? And I think the reason for that is kind of interesting, and it's because most of the time spent on this was time spent... Oh, that's annoying. That's really annoying. Most of the time spent working on this was time spent getting runs. And in runs, you want to be in as much control as possible. You want to be as aware of your surroundings as possible. It makes sense when you're doing runs to... Wait, why am I... When you forget your paradox. Can I do this and also dodge the boulder? No, I can't. Okay. It was worth a test, though. Because I literally just need to maintain imagination and health. Health as well. That'd be good. If I die to this, I'm going to be so annoyed. Yeah, I completely forgot I had a ranged weapon. I was literally just sitting there like, oh, you know, it would make this so much easier, ranged weapons. Because I'm not used to ranged weapons. I never fight with them. Yeah, wrong thing. But yeah, and so basically what had happened is because that was the point where you were basically limited by the time it would take you to land on the ground. It was fast. It was like safer because speed wasn't exactly of the essence at that point. It was a far better bet. It was a far better bet to move sideways, so you could like precisely see the stairs, and that's certainly what I've been doing the whole time. Just like, yeah, as long as I'm moving sideways, I can see the stairs. Speed doesn't matter for those because you're limited by the time it takes you to jump and to land after a jump. So there's no point going for speed. However, if you're running straight forwards, then yeah, and basically, you probably could get this going sideways, but because you're moving more slowly going sideways, you don't have as much momentum. It's nowhere near as effective. It almost feels unfair. Not used to being this OP. Or comparative. Like, I'm not even OP, but just compared to how I normally am fighting. Oh, I can also do this, of course. Alright, it's just going to run up and damage. It's fine. Okay, let's swap over. Not used to having some of the items I do have. Oh, no. Come on, maintain aggro just for a second or two. That was lucky. So that must be what's happening. So you note that normally when I get hit by this guy's attacks, I don't get like thrown back there, but I do right as he wakes up. So I wonder if that's maybe what's causing some of my issues. It's the fact that he has a like separate attack which activates as he wakes up. Sorry, you're getting the usual vague. That's interesting. That's it. Normally we don't see that, but that's more or less what normally gets me killed. I'm going to end this here so I can actually watch that back because that's interesting. This is honestly sorry for what's been a like very, very, very scattered video of me like trying to explain one thing, which really just needed a simpler diagram. But I hope this was not awful. Even given that, thank you very much for watching. I've been Intro You. I'll see you around. Bye.